Hello and welcome to Science Research Weekly, Season 5, Episode 11, Super Special Stellar Objects. Get ready for vitamin D and dementia protection, exploding black holes, semi-autonomous robots for Martian exploration, a forbidden planet, a pristine star, Mothbox and Mothbot, one-pass statistical formulas in SAS, and build in your own programming language. This covers material from April 3rd to April 9th. Let's get started with some research articles. First up, association of circulating vitamin D in midlife with increased tau PET burden in dementia-free adults. So researchers looked at vitamin D in a prospective cohort study, the Framingham Heart Study Generation 3 cohort. They looked at dementia-free adults, and essentially what they found was that in dementia-free individuals with higher serum 25-OHD, so essentially a measure of circulating vitamin D, was associated with lower tau deposition, which is, I think, a risk factor or sort of a precursor of dementia. So essentially, low vitamin D in midlife might be a modifiable target to mitigate risk. So if you have more vitamin D, you boost your vitamin D levels, that actually might help reduce the risk, the incidence of dementia. Next up, DNA drug conjugates enable logic-gated drug delivery amplified by hybridization chain reactions. So this is fancy cell biology stuff, but essentially researchers can use these sort of synthetic DNA as almost like lock and key to specifically target cancer cells and no other cells, kind of lock on and then create this thing called hybridization chain reactions where you can have them loaded with a drug and then they bind to the DNA, or not the DNA, the cancer cell, and actually unload the drug just on the cancer cell. So again, in the class of targeted cancer therapies. Next up, explaining the PeV neutrino fluxes at KM3NET and IceCube with Quasiextremal primordial black holes. So there's been some very strange, in the last couple years, neutrino energies. Really high energy neutrino, and then 5 neutrinos with sort of lower energy but still quite high, without currently known astrophysical sources. Though a potential source would be an exploding primordial black hole. And so in the study, they look into that possibility, and not just any primordial black hole, a specific type of black hole called a quasi-extremal primordial black hole might fit the observations. All right, moving on. Semi-autonomous exploration of Martian and lunar analogues with a legged robot using a Raman-equipped robotic arm and microscopic imager. So currently, they're going to explore Mars. It needs direct human intervention, but these researchers were testing out, obviously not on Mars, but in a simulated environment, sort of this robot dog type system with sensors and a, they call it semi-autonomous, where I guess it will go through and look at rocks on its own. You can obviously give it commands, but it sort of has like a pre-built setup to prospect the surface without always needing instructions one after the other. All right, switching over here, GEMS JWST transmission spectroscopy of TOI 525b reveals significant stellar contamination in a metal poor atmosphere. So this is this GEMS study. It's looking at these Jupiter mass planets, short period ones, so hot Jupiters around small stars, so M dwarf stars. So I think it's giants around M stars, something like that. That's the study. To learn more about how these systems form, because it's not clear, and especially in this one, the the actual planet itself has like less contamination than or it has less, not contamination, but well, they call it contamination, but they have less types of metals than the actual star does, which is unclear how that would actually work. So they're examining that, and I think that the current prevailing theory is perhaps that some of those more complex metals are in not on the atmosphere, but in the deep interior, and so that would raise more questions about how giant hot Jupiters actually cycle materials and elements and how they shift out under formation. So kind of an anomaly. Some would call this a forbidden planet type, but clearly exists, and so that will help elucidate more how planetary formation across broad swaths of types of planets actually occurs. Anyways, kind of spitballing there, but let's switch over to something a little cleaner. A nearly pristine star from the large Magellanic Cloud. So first stars were mostly just hydrogen and helium, pristine gas as it were. It's hard to find them because they're formed very early on. But actually there was this project that found one, actually that migrated, an immigrant star migrated into our Milky Way galaxy from the Magellanic Cloud. That is one of the most pristine stars since noticed, and there's actually found in, I believe, a graduate course using the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. So using public access data, and in fact, there's a news article right on the Sloan Digital Survey website about this. So that was kind of a fascinating find and sort of a triumph of open source science. You can see the orbit in this picture if you're looking at the video. All right, let's switch gears here to ectopic NMDAR expression in cancer unmasked germline encoded autoimmunity. So the main point of this article is, from what I understand, is that some autoimmune disorders might actually be the remnants of the body fighting off cancer that gets knocked out, and so it's not detectable. And actually the autoimmune is a symptom of that, not of something else. And so that's kind of a fascinating interplay between autoimmune disorders and oncology and cancer. And there might be a direct connection between this specific kind of expression, this NMDAR expression, and sort of cancer immunity and neurotoxicity. All right, that ends our main articles. Let's switch into our preprints. On arXiv, we have Roshi, a versatile robot-oriented suit for human data in the wild. So essentially taking ARIA glasses, these different IMUs, inertial measure units, walking around, and then feeding that to a robot to help work on gait and actual movement. So real-world data to help train a robot to walk more naturally. Then there's ClickGuard, a trustworthy adaptive fusion framework for clickbait detection. So kind of the name is in the title there. Looking at trying to actually detect clickbait from headlines. Then over on bioRxiv, a couple insect-themed ones. First of all, there is Mothbox and Mothbot, automated light traps and data processing system for scalable insect monitoring. So there's Mothbots as an open source automated light trap that makes insect monitoring accessible to anyone. And then Mothbot is a machine learning tool and user interface to process that data from those traps. So really fascinating implementation of hardware and software to detect insects. And then there is patterns of host plant use by monarch butterflies reveals through annotation of more than 35,000 community science records. So the author here went through iNaturalist and was able to document milkweed hosts, species of milkweed hosts. No, sorry. Give me a moment here. Associations between, the monarch butterfly and different species of milkweed, and was able to actually even determine different interactions, new or previously documented interactions of species. And this was really fascinating because this used, again, another open source tool, iNaturalist. Just like the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, the public has access to this. It's open source data. You can use this to advance interesting scientific hypotheses and actually test them. All right, switching over to more tools, we have from Rick Wicklund and the Do Loop, one-pass formulas for mean and variance. This is a fascinating article. This isn't something I thought about, but I do a lot of statistics. Typically, I run something in R or SAS and calculate things like mean or calculate variance. And I didn't think about some of these things where like variance is actually two passes, where you run it and then it has to loop through it again, and that is usually fairly quick with modern computers, but in the 1970s, that was a hard thing to do. So they actually developed methods to actually do it sort of what they call one pass or online. So you can do it as you go to actually calculate mean, yes, variance, standard deviation. And so SAS has that ability. And it's not just an artifact. It can be used for helpful things in the current day to have things done on the fly, like sensors generating data per minute to be able to compute those on the fly rather than storing all the raw data and then doing it. And so that's a really interesting short article on SAS and statistics. All right, switching over to our bloggers, we have a post by Stephen Royal, Hold on Hope, publication lag times at cell biology journals, where we looked at actually wrote an R package called PubMed lag R to get publication data and getting the lag time for cell biology type journals, the mean lag time. And one of the most fascinating outcomes was that the journal, there's one journal with the longest lag time, which was almost 9 years. So that's interesting finding. Anyway, switching over to collaboration between Bioconductor and R Universe on development of common infrastructure. This is the R OpenSci team. So Bioconductor, it's a cornerstone of bioinformatics for R. It needs some retooling, some infrastructure, and so they're working together with R Universe to do that, to make improvements. And of course, R Universe serves thousands of packages across R, different organizations, different projects. So hopefully that improves everything. And then finally, for the R bloggers, there's from Econometrics and Free Software. You could just build your own programming language. It's here where the author actually went through and decided to kind of, with the help of LLMs, to start creating a new R language that is called T, sort of a successor to R. And so that's very fascinating. And so there's even a website for it now. T, the orchestration engine for polyglot data science. So it's an experimental engine. It can run other code, but it also has its own sort of code base as well. So it's kind of fascinating. Yeah, turns out you can just make your own programming language if you know what to do, use the right tools, and continually test and validate it. With that, we'll come to the end of our time here with a couple new R packages. There's AgriCat, mathematically aggregating expert judgments, and Ravel, AI Copilot for R analysis workflows in R Studio. That's all I have for today. Again, no new grants. Have a great weekend. And as always, science on.